Angeles.
My goodness, there were some good games last night. Welcome to NBA Today. He's Kendrick Perkins. She is Roz Goldon Wude joining us in studio. I'm Malika Andrews. Zach Lowe, Brian Windhorst. They are going to be with us in just a little bit. We have a lot to get to tonight. We have the Knicks advancing for the first time since 2012. We got the Grizzlies and the Warriors pushing to a Game 6. But we also need to start with the game of the night, the biggest story in the NBA, because did you guys see what Jimmy did to the Milwaukee Bucks? We're going to take you to Pfizer Forum right now where it all went down. Because, Perk, we were sitting here yesterday saying, you know what? This is going to be the game. The Bucks are going to take it. The momentum may or may not swing. Jimmy Butler had other plans. We're going to get to that play that you can see there in just a little bit. Entering the fourth quarter, Miami trailed by 16 points. And then behind Jimmy Butler, Perk, they came roaring back.
Absolutely. And look, getting to his spot, I was wondering when were the Bucks going to get out of their drop coverage? Never did. But this is what Jimmy Butler does so well right here. Cutting and moving without the basketball, finishing around the basket, mixing it up, setting picks and diving in the paint, and then letting them know about it.
Chirping there to Drew Holiday. Once again, elevates, hits the three, gets it to go. Tied up now at 111. And then 4-point game, Milwaukee up. Miami comes back the other way. Gabe Vincent hits the three. Tough bucket with 8.4 left. 1-point game at this point. And then again, just a little bit of sloppy basketball here by Miami. Initially, that foul was called against Lowry. It would be reversed. We have a jump ball. Giannis saying, I don't want it. He doesn't want to be fouled in that moment. Chris Middleton saves it. So the Bucks, they get an opportunity here. One more look at this. Chris Middleton diving into the scorer's table to make sure it stays in bounds and gets to Drew Holiday. And then 2.1 seconds left here. Miami has an opportunity to tie the game. Looking, finds Jimmy Butler. Was it a push? Well, the refs weren't going to call it that. Jimmy Butler wanted this moment. He wanted the play. And Eric Spoelstra explained exactly how it came to fruition. As Jimmy says, let me hear you to the Milwaukee crowd.
We've practiced, a variation of that play with a bunch of different guys. And I was going to do a different version of it, and he just said, no, let me be that guy. And I just said, okay, but what if we can't get that pass? And he said, I'll get it. Don't worry about it.
That's what you say to me, Perk. I'll get it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
and Jimmy Butler said, I'm him. I got you. Even though he doesn't want to be referred to as Himmy Butler, he was making Himmy Butler moves.
Ooh, beautiful. Getting to the stare down to Drew Holiday.
Giannis gets the rebound. Bucks down 2. Final seconds. Should he call a timeout, Mike Budenholzer? What about here? Maybe here. What about now when Grayson Allen has the ball? Grayson Allen driving, tries to get a shot off. And the Miami Heat walk away with the win.
Home with you.
Let's take a listen to Eric Spoelstra after the game.
My teammates, they need me to be that way right now. I will continue to be that way right now. Whatever it takes to win, it could be 40, it could be 50, it could be 0 and 12 assists. I got to be able to do it all.
I've said a lot about how I feel about Jimmy. He is us and we are him, and I just respect him so much as being such a unique, world-class, elite competitor. A lot of guys play the game of basketball in this league. He competes to win. That's a different language. And he's desperate and urgent and maniacal and sometimes psychotic about the will to try to win. And he'll make everybody in the building feel it. And that's why he is us and we are him. That's the way we operate as well. And sometimes the psychotic meets the psychotic.
The psychotic meets the psychotic. Well, I don't know about that, but playoff Jimmy fully activated in the last 2 games to close out the Bucks. He scored 98 points over the final 2 games of the series, making him the first Heat player with back-to-back 40-point games, playoff games. That is, he's the 5th player in NBA postseason history to score at least 98 points over a 2-game span. And the first since Michael Jordan. You may have heard of that guy in 1993. So there is so much to get into in all of this, Roz and Perk. We will, but I want to stick to the Heat side of this first. What stood out to you about Miami, Perk?
If we do the unthinkable, would it make us look crazy?
Okay.
If you ask me, I'm ready.
Okay.
And that's exactly what Jimmy Buckets was doing. Was ready for the moment, and he capitalized in great fashion. When you think about what he did, and it wasn't what he did, it was how he did it. Taking on the number 1 seed, Drew Holiday talking smack. He actually posted pictures of deers like it was hunting season and went out and delivered in great fashion. When you look at what he did in Game 4, dropping 56 with that huge comeback. Last night, taking over the fourth quarter, and then he letting Drew Holiday know about it. Like, this is one of the best perimeter defenders, if not in the NBA. When I look at the performance he had this series, it is one of the greatest performances in NBA history. Averaging a 38-piece throughout the series to knock off the Bucks. And you said it last night. You tweeted it last night. The first play-in team to ever advance in the playoffs.
Yep.
Come on now, what we talking about?
And, you know, as a group of media, people are feeling really stunned or shocked about the Bucks, you know, being eliminated so early. But if you ask the Heat, they're not surprised at all. I've been on the court and covering them all season long. I actually spoke to Spo at the end of the season, and he said, we are a dangerous team. If you look at our record and you think that's who we are, you are going to be surprised in a terrible way. And it wasn't just about Jimmy. You talk about Jimmy being ready. The bench was ready.
Right.
Like, Spo told me we have X factors. The word he used was ignitable players. Don't let Max Strus or Kyle Lowry or Duncan Robinson see the ball go through the net a few times. Gabe Vincent was big last game. So all those guys stepped up to support the heroic performance we saw from Jimmy Butler. So that team been dangerous, and the Heat are certainly not surprised about what they just accomplished.
The heat was turned all the way up, and they were cooking because you mentioned the bench. When we saw Tyler Hero get hurt, it was sort of like, okay, how much life is that going to take out of Miami? It wasn't a whole lot, particularly when you get 42, 8, and 4 from Jimmy Butler. That's tied for the most points in a series-clinching win in Heat playoff history. But then there's the other side of all of this. So let's take a listen to head coach Mike Budenholzer on the end of regulation and overtime for the Bucks.
You had a timeout with half a second left and you didn't call it. What was the thought process there?
Yeah, we need to call a timeout there.
And then in overtime, I know you like to play without calling the timeout. Was there any part of that possession where you thought maybe we're not getting something, we need to take a timeout?
No. Giannis attacked. Giannis got the ball to Chris. Chris attacked. That's how we always play. It's been very good for us. And, we weren't able to convert it tonight.
Would you have liked to have defended Jimmy more one-on-one?
Yes. Out of respect, you gotta let the coach, make the adjustment. And we have our best defender on him. But obviously this conversation with Drew, whenever he gets tired, I can, take him. But he's so competitive, plays so hard, and he wanted to take the challenge. But at the end of the day, I wish I could guard him more, for sure.
Welcoming in our senior writer Zach Lowe into the conversation because, Zach, I'm flabbergasted. I mean, still this morning, the lack of timeouts, the fact that the Bucks led by double digits entering the fourth last 2 games, right? And then the Heat had lost 51 straight games when they entered the fourth trailing by double digits, and then they just won twice in a row. Can you help me here? How did this happen?
Can I help you?
Please.
No, I need someone to help me. Look, when a number 1 seed at home with a 2-time MVP facing elimination loses a 16-point lead in 12 minutes or less, 2 things happen. The trailing team plays its butts off, and you guys covered that. We might never see a player play a series any better than Jimmy Butler just did on both ends of the floor. But the leading team also collapses, and there's just no way to sugarcoat it. This was a complete collapse from the Milwaukee Bucks on offense, and it's the kind of loss that you're never the same after. The Bucks will never be the same again after coming apart like this. To not call a timeout at the end of regulation, to not get a shot off at the end of the game, to hot potato the ball out of bounds because you don't want to get fouled and almost throw your season away in the process. Giannis fouled Max Strus on a 3-point shot when the Bucks were still within 2. We didn't even show that. The shot selection down the stretch in the half court is a movie that we've seen before. The letting Jimmy Butler go off without double teaming him, without adjusting, without doing very much in the way of adjustments. It's a movie we've seen before. This is a reckoning for the Bucks. Mortality comes for you fast in the NBA. Chris Middleton has a player option. He's 32. Brook Lopez is a free agent. He's 35. Drew Holiday will be extension eligible next season. He's 32. There's not a lot of young talent in the pipeline. This is an all-time jaw on the floor stretch of basketball from the Bucks last night. There's just no other way to put it.
You just touched on it, so I do want to bring Brian Windhorst into the conversation because the consequences can extend so far beyond just this game, Brian. What's next for this Milwaukee Bucks team? Oh, it looks like, Brian, we might have to wait a little bit longer just as he deals with his microphone. But, Roz, when you look at the future for Milwaukee here, what do you see?
Well, I see a Milwaukee team that, has all their eggs in this basket. And for me, as somebody who was like on sidelines for this series and covering it, I mean, I was actually on my way to supposed to be going to Miami to work Game 6. Jimmy put an end to that, and I'm glad to be here with you guys today.
We are too.
But I was really just focusing, I was compelled by the matchup between Jimmy Butler and Drew Holiday. And there was a lot of familiarity in that matchup, and Drew is certainly an excellent defender. It wasn't for a lack of effort, but it seemed like they really had each other's card, and that didn't work out for Drew. It was Jimmy's advantage. So in speaking with Drew, he understood that it was Jimmy was going to get to the basket, that he was going to get to the free throw line. He even said, he admitted that Jimmy was stronger, that he could cut in front and behind him. And for me, you hear at the end of the game on this play that sent the game to overtime, Jimmy had familiarity in the ability to anticipate and predict what was coming from Drew Holiday. He said he wasn't going to shoot the gap, that he was going to get physicality. And therefore, he knew that Drew was going to be trailing him if he was able to turn the corner. So he was able to call and ask for that play, and that ability to feel comfortable within a matchup that is tough was bad for the Bucks. And usually you see a star player, they said, we're going to throw different bodies on you, keep him uncomfortable, show him crowds and bodies. A lot of times, Drew was one-on-one in a situation where Jimmy's on a heater. He played 47 minutes last game, plus he's got to run your offense on the other side. I think fatigue could have been a factor too.
Let's zoom back out. Brian, I understand that your mic may be working now. What do you think this all means for Milwaukee?
Well, they were facing a very difficult situation this summer, even if they had won the title, because they have, as Zach mentioned, they have guys in their 30s who need to get paid, and they have Giannis, who's in his 20s, who has a contract extension situation. I think it is unlikely that Giannis extends his contract this summer. He does have 2 years left, but with everything that's going on with the team, and considering that there is new ownership, that makes it very difficult. And the Bucks are headed into the repeater tax. This is what happens to teams that are contenders year over year, and they spend. So everything on this team is about to get more expensive. Plus, we have new rules coming in that is going to limit the way they can improve this roster going forward. They are a late-stage contender with a superstar in his 20s.
Right.
And Malika, there are teams in this league watching very closely to see what happens with the Bucks this summer, notwithstanding a decision potentially on Mike Budenholzer.
Right, because all in all, Milwaukee fell short. That's just what it is at the end of the day. It's short of what we all sort of expected from what we've seen from the Bucks all year long. But Giannis gave a really insightful answer when the Athletics' Eric Name asked him how he's judging this team's success. Take a listen. Your reaction.
My reaction is that, are we serious right now? Is Giannis serious right now? This was a complete failure by the Milwaukee Bucks. You were the number one seed, the best team in the league, the favorites to win it all, and you lost to the 8th seed who got in through the play-in tournament, who's missing their third best player in Tyler Hero. Also, Victor Oladipo went out. So when I think about it and I'm looking across social media, I'm seeing everybody saying, oh yeah, Giannis, right on. Preach. He's the prime example of what we need as the face of the league. I love this for life. Well, we're talking about sports. Sports is about competing. And when you have expectations and you don't come close to reaching those expectations, you fail. And there's no other way around it. If it was any other player and LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, they had the #1 seed with the best team and got upset by the 8th seed, we would be having a different conversation no matter what he said at the podium. So I look at Giannis and, oh, he's the good guy. But was he the good guy when he was making a joke about KD, saying about leading the team and he'll show him? And I know it was comedy, but sometimes the truth lies inside of jokes. So at the end of the day, I'm not buying that, and nobody else should be buying that, and we shouldn't be, way to go, Giannis, on that speech. I'm not rolling.
We're going to get back to this a little bit later in the show because there's a lot there. I appreciate the response from Giannis. I appreciate the question from Eric, but we have so many games to get to here on NBA Today, including, John Morant and Desmond Bane. They kept their playoff hopes alive. Let's take a look at what's going on in the West, starting with the Lakers and the Grizzlies, because John Morant and company came roaring back, Kendrick Perkins, to make this a 3-2 series.
They absolutely did, and I thought they did a great job of actually pushing the pace. The Lakers could not keep up, but look at John Morant, just relentless to the offensive glass. Best offensive rebounding guard in the league.
It looked like his hand was potentially bothering him a little bit less. The Lakers, though, mounted a little bit of a comeback here when Anthony Davis was on the floor. 3-point game at this point. But then Memphis, once again, just had an answer for everything, it felt like. Ja gets the roll.
He says he's too small. D'Angelo Russell got to do better defensively. But I just thought the Grizzlies, they felt off, they was off the crowd of the home crowd, and they had the energy. That's why they was live in the arena.
So it's a 1-point game, and Anthony Davis heads to the bench. He had 31 points, 19 rebounds, and yet not in the game. So Jaren Jackson Jr. goes to work here, blows a kiss to the crowd. Once again, the Grizzlies fight for the board. Xavier Tillman dishes it back out. Desmond Bane, you cannot leave that man in the corner like that.
Absolutely, and Tillman has been huge, especially at home, attacking the glass, and great find by him.
It just felt like a little, too late when Anthony Davis came back into the game. Memphis gets the win 116-99, so the series now shifts back to Los Angeles. In Game 5, it flipped when AD went to the bench. 4 minutes, 10 seconds to go. That was in the third quarter. Then the Grizzlies led 75-74, ended the quarter on a 19-2 run, and that all but ended the game, right? Let's keep it pushing to the Golden State Warriors because championships are in their DNA. Steph Curry getting set in Golden One Arena, but we were a little bit concerned here, Roz, because this is on the road where the Warriors have not been good here. Draymond Green came off the bench once again.
Yeah, I felt like this win was a significant one for the rest of this series, and if they advance, take them all the way on a nice run in playoffs. They needed this identity, confidence building win on the road.
1-point game. Steph Curry, Davion Mitchell, by the way, has done a fantastic job all series long. It is exhausting, I imagine, to guard Steph Curry. Clay coming off the screen, finds his spot, elevates over Sabonis. It felt like Game 6 Clay arrived a little bit early.
Everybody was chipping in. It was Clay, it was Wiggins, it was Draymond, it was rebounds from Looney, it was Steph with the dagger, and it wasn't about a flurry of threes. These were tough half-court execution plays from a team with championship experience.
I will say on the Kings side, though, one of the reasons why it was so close late for Sacramento is the effort of Malik Monk. He was just everywhere for them, but Andrew Wiggins elevates, gets it to go. 5-point game. Once again, Malik finds Sabonis for the slam. 3-point game. This is when I'm biting my nails just a little bit, but putting Keegan Murray in a spin cycle, this would all but do it. And just for good measure, Steph Curry gets to his spot, looking, lobs it up and in and one. That would be the game, and Steph lets the crowd know it. So the Warriors' championship DNA was on full display, right down the stretch of Game 5. Helped them pull off a crucial road win. Golden State has won a road game in 28 straight playoff series. That extends the longest streak by any team in NBA history. But it all boils down to this, as I'm rejoined by our full panel here. The Grizzlies, they win. They force a Game 6. The Warriors, they are 1 win away from advancing. So, Perk, I'm going to start with you here. We heard Roz say that she thinks the Warriors may get this done in 6. Which series is going to 7?
Neither. We won't have a Game 7. Matter of fact, I'm tapping out on the Kings. Last night, what I witnessed out of the Golden State Warriors, they snatched their souls. And I can't say enough about six-man Draymond Green. Coming in off the bench, it has been huge, and it's actually benefiting the Warriors. 21 points last night? And then when I think about Looney, can we talk about him anchoring that defense on the glass, basically just manhandling Sabonis, letting him know that there's levels to this, and Steph Curry and Clay with their shot making. And I thought Andrew Wiggins all night long did a nice job of hounding De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is talented enough that he's going to get his, but I'm waving the white flag. I'm tapping out.
All right, so you're going Warriors in 6, Lakers in 6.
Yeah.
Brian, where are we going for you?
Yeah, I like both teams' chances to close out in 6 at home, but I think the Lakers are in a little bit more tenuous position. Malika, sometimes we say LeBron looks like he's 28, not 38. Last night he looked 38, and they've got a real tough turnaround. They didn't get back to LA until 1 this morning. Very little time to rest. And look, the Grizzlies figured something out last night. Taylor Jenkins took Dylan Brooks out, put in Luke Kennard. It changed the spacing. Kennard was plus 26. I think you'll see that if Kennard's healthy. He did have a shoulder stinger, but if Kennard's healthy, I think you'll see that, and it might be a wrinkle that allows the Grizzlies, who are much younger, to have maybe a little bit of an edge coming back to LA.
Well, LeBron did take responsibility for that. He said, I played like a word I can't say on TV, but he vowed to be better in Game 6, and they're going to need to be, because they do not want to go back to Memphis for a Game 7 added miles. You just don't want that. But it all goes down tomorrow night right here on ESPN and the ESPN. Yeah. The Knicks advanced to the second round for the first time since 2013, and Vegas has them favored in their matchup with the Heat. The Knicks won 3 of 4 meetings during the regular season, but all 4 games were decided by 9 or less points here. So the Knicks, they haven't made the Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. That was when Aaliyah's Try Again was the #1 song. Gladiator, it topped the box office. So, Brian, what's it going to take for the Knicks to get back there? Do you think they can?
Well, they are waking up today, Malika, with home court advantage in this round. Not having home court in the first round, home court in the second round. We do not see that often. We could see it in the West, too, with Golden State. The most important thing in the short term is Julius Randle's ankle. He really didn't have a very effective series against the Cavs other than in the first game. Re-sprained it last night. His health is going to be very important. But if you watch this Knicks team, they dominated every single matchup and every single phase of that series with the Cavs, and I don't think they played their best basketball. Emmanuel quickly didn't shoot the ball that well. Quentin Grimes got injured. Jalen Brunson was very effective, but had moments where he wasn't that efficient. Josh Hart suffered a sprained ankle. They can actually take their game to another level, and the chance to get to start this at home, even though the Heat are a team that is very experienced, the way that they dominated the Cavs rebounding the ball, the window is there for them to do it again to the Heat if the Heat aren't more prepared than Cleveland.
Perk, I want to get your response to what you think is going to happen in this series, but I also want to give you your flowers because I think you saw this coming. You called it. This was back before the All-Star break. This is what you tweeted. This was January. I'm legit worried about the Cavs. They're going to win regular season games because they have a lot of talent, but their inconsistency on both ends of the floor is going to be the reason they're going to be a first-round exit. Carry the hell on. So safe to say you're not surprised, just disappointed. And what do you think of this Knicks Heat matchup?
Well, 2 things. I'm proud of myself for actually writing that tweet. Typing out that tweet, correct grammar across the board.
No typos.
Secondly, I appreciate the flowers, but I love food. And third, I saw it coming. Let me explain why. I criticized Evan Mobley on our show, and I told the Cavs needed more out of him. What people were on me about, what you talking about? This is what I'm talking about. He got exposed. Also, what I saw out of the Cavs was I saw Donovan Mitchell dominating the ball, taking a lot of shots, which took away from the growth of everybody else. And when you're going into the postseason, you got to have everybody feeling confident. I didn't see that in Jared Allen. I didn't see that in Evan Mobley. Darius Garland at time took over, but eventually this team had become the Donovan Mitchell show, and you're not going to win like that when the team doesn't have confidence. So what ended up happening is that the Knicks end up punching them in the mouth. They got physical with them. That was the most important thing because the Knicks didn't shoot the ball well. They just got physical and junked the game up. And that's what ended up happening, But I like when I'm right.
I like when you're right, too,
Yeah.
Kendrick Perkins. I really do. I appreciate being able to give you your flowers, and I'll text Fixins and make sure we can get you a plate.
Yeah.
All right, coming up here on NBA Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Paolo Banchero. He will be joining the show after the break.
Do you view this season as a failure?
Oh my God. Every year you work towards something, towards a goal. It's not a failure, it's steps to success. There's always steps to it. There's no failure in sports. You know, there's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. And this year, somebody else is going to win. Simple as that. We're going to come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits. Hopefully we can win a championship.
So the Bucks are just the latest 1 seed to fall to an 8 seed. The first was the 1994 Sonics, who got taken out by Dikembe Mutombo 6 blocks per game in the series. The Nuggets entered the series as plus 1,400 to win. And the next is the 99 Knicks. They take down the Heat in the lockout-shortened season. Allen Houston made the game winner in the final seconds to stamp the victory. New York lost in the finals that year. And then it's the We Believe Warriors. They took down the 67-win Mavericks in that 2007 first round. And of course, we got the Dirk chair. That legend went down in that one. And then in 2011, the Grizzlies, they were able to take advantage of the Spurs in the paint behind Zach Randolph, Marc Gasol in the first round. Huge moment for the Grizzlies, winning their first playoff series in team history. And then the next year, the 76ers, they defeated the Bulls in the first round. That was after Derrick Rose tore his ACL in Game 1. Drew Holiday led the Sixers in scoring during that series with 18 per game. But Drew, of course, was on the flip side this time. The Bucks fell to Jimmy Butler. He willed Miami to victory. Butler averaged over 37 points, and the Heat move on.
Oh, hostile.
For the sixth time, the Heat and Knicks are going to face off in a playoff series. They played 4 straight years, 1997 to 2000. All 4 series, they went the distance. The Heat won the most recent meeting in 2012 in 5 games. So Kendrick Perkins, we've talked a lot about the Bucks. We've talked a lot about Giannis's really interesting sound from last night. I don't fully agree with you. I see where you're coming from on it being a failure in terms of what they set out to do. But what I appreciated was that Giannis, it made me think a little bit, right, about my own failures, what you set out for, all of that in life. So I thought that was really interesting. But for you, Perk, I know you are already having your sight set on the next series.
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Bucks are going to do. Okay, they're not going to trade Giannis, obviously, or Drew Holiday, or Chris Middleton, or Bobby Portis. They should re-sign Brook Lopez. Is it a time for a new leader, a leadership change? Like, Budenholzer dropped the ball a lot throughout this series. We should have called timeouts. He should have made adjustments. He didn't. I wonder what the Bucks go do. I know what I would do.
I think I know what you would do as well. That's going to do it for us today. We have some exciting games tomorrow. We have Hawks and the Celtics.